Welcome to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. Comment is the big conversation. It can be the great debate, but only if you join in. That's why, above all, I need your telephone calls. The number is 44208-601-4555. You call us, we'll call you back, establish a clear line, and remember, if you get on the television with me, the volume on your television has to be down at 0, or I'll have to press swiftly on, as no one will understand either of us. But you can also SMS the show, and it goes up there on the comment wall, 447800008066. And you can email me at comment@presstv.co.uk. You can even tweet me at comment_presstv. Now, the Syrian election result, and especially its turnout, should deal a death blow to the Western-backed conspiracy against Syria. After all, who knew that almost 4 years into a bloody and disastrous conflict, fueled by the money and weapons of some of the unfreest, most dictatorial countries on the earth at Western behest, almost 4 years later, more than 70% of the Syrian people voted, whilst a war was going on, to re-elect overwhelmingly the President Bashar al-Assad. Now, I was in the region just a couple of days ago, and when I was in Beirut, 100,000 people, refugees, 100,000 of them, blocked an entire thoroughfare waiting for their turn to vote at the Syrian embassy in Beirut. No secret policeman could have forced them to. No state propaganda can have influenced them to. They were entirely free to stay well away from the polling place. But 100,000 of them, 100,000, queued for hours in the hot sun in order to cast their ballots. I hosted, the night before the election, a television discussion on an Arab television station, Al Mayadeen TV. I hosted a discussion which made it abundantly clear that the Syrian people, A, were going to turn out in massive numbers, and B, were going to re-elect President Assad. Not necessarily because all of them loved President Assad, but because they feared and loathed and hated those who were engaged in the battle against the Syrian people and its president. This is a very important lesson for the West to learn. The question is, will they learn it? You see, the vast majority of Syrians, about which, as you'll have learned if you've been watching and listening and reading me throughout this conflict, I was never in any doubt. The Syrian people are not ever going to agree to be ruled by al-Qaeda, by a kind of takfiri fanatic interpretation of Islam. The Syrian people are a Mediterranean, highly sophisticated, multi-faith, multi-ethnic even, society. And as I said almost 3 years ago, and you can find it on YouTube, a revolution which terrifies the life out of every religious minority in the country, out of almost every woman in the country, out of every secular person in the country, is not a revolution that's either going to triumph or is deserving of my support, and it never had my support. Which is not to say that Syria does not deserve and indeed need thoroughgoing political transformation in the direction of democracy. It does, and I hope it will. But if the choice is between the Syrian government as is and the al-Qaeda and offshoots opposition, dominated opposition, not everybody in the opposition is of course al-Qaeda, but according to Jane's Defense Weekly, the Bible of the military-industrial complex, at least 50% of those doing the fighting in Syria are al-Qaeda. According to the New York Times, which is quite well informed on this matter, it's more than 80%. Well, in such a battle, I'm afraid I can never be with al-Qaeda, because the head chopping, hand chopping, throat cutting, heart and lung eating al-Qaeda just isn't for me. That's not any kind of Islam that I would like to see triumph. Indeed, it's my argument that there's nothing actually Islamic about it. So, how will the Syrian elections affect Western policies on Syria is one of the subjects we're discussing tonight. And the points I've just been making relate directly to the second issue we're going to be discussing. Why has Nigeria not dealt seriously with Boko Haram? Boko Haram are the Nigerian chapter of al-Qaeda. They're right out of the al-Qaeda playbook. They also are head chopping, hand chopping, throat cutting. I haven't seen them actually eat hearts yet, but they have been breaking very many hearts in Nigeria. Their terrorist atrocities are a disgrace to humanity, never mind a disgrace to Islam. They set off bombs in civilian areas deliberately to inflict mass casualties on entirely innocent people. And of course, most recently, they have kidnapped hundreds of schoolgirls, and God knows what they have done with them. Some of them, reportedly, have raped and defiled these girls in their childish innocence. Some of them have married these girls. Some of them have sold these girls as slaves. God knows what fate then became them. Boko Haram is a disgrace to humanity. It is an infestation on the earth, and it is besmirching the glorious name of the Prophet in whose name they claim to be acting. The question is, therefore, why has Nigeria so singularly failed to deal with them? Why have they grown stronger rather than weaker? Either the military security policy isn't working, or the economic and social reforms and changes that are needed in Nigeria to undercut the social base of this infestation aren't being seriously tried. I hear all the time, because we have a very big audience in Nigeria, as regular viewers will know. I hear from people in Nigeria all the time that the security forces are not doing anything different to what they were doing before the kidnapping of these girls. We have nothing here against Nigeria, quite the contrary. We care about the future of Nigeria. We care about its social cohesion and its peace, and we don't want to see al-Qaeda prospering there or anywhere else in the world. That's a key difference, of course, between us and the Western governments, who oppose al-Qaeda in Nigeria, they say, but support al-Qaeda in Syria, which is now spilled over the borders into Iraq and many other places. So, that's the second question. Why has Nigeria not dealt seriously enough, at least, with Boko Haram? First caller is a very smart man, Ali in New York, on the Nigeria question. Ali, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Galloway. It's again, it's an honor to speak to you, though we follow you all the time on internet.
Thank you.
I have been listening to your talk at this time. I think if I remember correctly, and if I can analyze correctly regarding Syria, this has been the first time in recent history that all the cruel governments of the world has tried to depose a legitimate government with their all atrocities which they have carried out against, not only against Muslims, but against humanity. you know, and we are so happy, you know, that President Assad is again there, and he is hope for everybody there.
Well, the Syrian people are triumphing in the war. There's still a lot of blood, I have no doubt, to be spilled. There were mortar attacks on Damascus itself, which killed more than 20 civilians on Tuesday, on polling day, even though these fanatic Takfiri groups had said they would not be targeting the crowds of people going out to vote. But there isn't any doubt at all in the minds of anyone in the political class or in the media class that the Syrian people are victorious in this conflict. However much attrition there is now at the tail end of this conflict, the Syrian people have won. And when the war is over, I hope that President Bashar will institute the kind of democratic reforms that Syria needs. He has changed much in the economic system, not all of it to my liking, but he needs now to follow this up with real reforms in terms of people's freedom to speak, to think, to write, to act politically. When the war is over, nobody can expect a government that's beset by 100,000 foreign Takfiri fanatics and a conspiracy involving Britain, America, France, Israel, Saudi Arabia and other Persian Gulf countries. Nobody can expect reforms to be forthcoming in such an atmosphere. But the war is coming to an end and the democratic transformation should begin. Ali, thanks for your call. As always, Ibrahim is in Libya and he wants to talk about Nigeria too. Ibrahim, welcome.
Oh, very much. Thank you. This is my second time of...
It's good to hear from you again.
This is my... Yeah. How are you doing?
By the grace of God, I'm good. Thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the Boko Haram issue, which is now becoming so complicated. You know, I can blame the Nigerian government since from the beginning. Because since from the beginning, the people come and say they want in each country, each individual has a privilege to enjoy the social welfare of the country. You understand? And from the beginning, there is a certain rebels in the northern part of Port Harcourt. There too, because of the oil program, they've been bringing guns, killing people, taking people hostage, and the government called them and sit down and told them to bring down their weapons so that you will give them work, you will give them everything they want. They satisfy that people. So in the northern part, they brought this thing. Since from the beginning, they said they want their welfare. So it is the time of the government to let every person in the country to enjoy that social welfare. So they abolished their talking. They didn't mind them. Even their first leader, the police, the soldiers cut him in his face and gave it to the police. And the police, they just brutalized him in his body. Everywhere is gunshots. Everywhere.
Well, look, it's not the clearest of lines, Ibrahim, but I think I've got your point. There is no doubt that Nigeria has suffered for decades from rampant government corruption within the political class and indeed within the business class. There is no doubt that good luck Jonathan hasn't had or brought much good luck to Nigeria. It is undoubtedly true that the Nigerian government has made many mistakes in the distribution of wealth in the country. There is a small, very vastly privileged class of people, and the vast majority don't share in Nigeria's fantastic natural resource wealth. But we mustn't be morally relativist about this. The primary responsibility for the atrocities being carried out by the al-Qaeda chapter in Nigeria lies with them. And worse, no Muslim should ever concede 1 centimeter that these people are in any way acting legitimately in the name of Islam. Thanks, Ibrahim. In Libya, let's go to Iraq, where Jamal wants to talk about the Syrian elections. Jamal, welcome. How will the Syrian elections affect Western policies on Syria in your view?
Thank you very much. I'm Jamal Shkur from the Kurdistan, Iraq. I'd like to talk about the most interesting topic from the Syria. The election going on this now from the Syria is type of encouraging by the Bashar al-Assad, because at this time he could do the process that it was so much difficult in this time, but so encouragingly he could do the election. This is one. Another thing, going on the election is this time may make many challenges, but however, this of challenges is there, but he can't show his power to the Western country and the people from the local area too. However, may have some problem with this election because maybe it's not have so much clear and what's the politician going on through this election and what the consequences from this election. But by anyway, the election is a type of the encouraging of the system that just now is going on there. About the consequences, maybe we are not much glad about that because some politician it's not participating and all of the process it's not going on well, but it is the positive point for the Syrian population there. About election, because election in the right situation should be happen. So unfortunately, the situation, either politician or from the health or from the economical, from the security point is not well in this area. But this is, as I say, this is a very positive point for them. There is, however, all of the part of the Syrian government not participating. Some area maybe it's not going on, but as I said, this is more positive point.
Okay, Jamal, thanks for that. Let me make this observation. The Syrian people struggled to the polls under the danger of mortars and car bombs and suicide attacks and so on. And they did so in fantastic numbers. Only the blind or willfully blind could fail to have seen that. And I gave the example of what happened in Beirut. When President Ahmadinejad was elected first time as president in Iran, I was in Arizona in the United States, and I went to the polling station. And no, I'm not making this up. There was a polling station in Arizona to elect the president of Iran. And 69 people voted. Only one of them voted, as it happened, for President Ahmadinejad. 68 voted against him. But even the United States did not try to stop Iranian citizens from voting at their consulate in their elections. In your region, however, practically all of the countries in the Persian Gulf, Arab countries, almost all of them refused to allow Syrians living in their country to cast a vote at their embassy, as indeed they did in France. They refused in France, they refused to allow them in the United States, refused to allow them in the United Kingdom, forcing many Syrians, I met them there, forcing many Syrians to fly all the way to Syria in order to cast their vote. That speaks volumes about the Syrian people's determination to record their view on where we stand, but it also speaks volumes about the true attitude to democracy of the countries that tried to stop them voting. Jamal in Iraq, thanks for that call. Samuel is in Paris. How will the Syrian elections affect French policy on Syria, Samuel?
Yes, good afternoon, George Galloway. I'm very happy to be with you today again.
And I'm very happy to talk to you.
I just want to commend the Syrian people, Mr. Bashar al-Assad, for his victory over the Syrian elections. But it was unfortunate by the American Secretary of State, John Kerry, calling the Syrian election a zero, because we found out that the election was not held in all of the countries. But unlike Ukraine also, the election was never held in all of the country. And now Ukraine election is said to be qualified, and they are not qualifying serious elections.
Indeed, and they're demanding that President Putin accept the result of a presidential election in Ukraine, which only happened because the elected president was chased out of the country just ahead of those who wanted to kill him, and a presidential election in which the vast majority of the Russian-speaking Ukrainians didn't participate. But that is a legitimate democratic election, and the Syrian election is entirely illegitimate, according to the United States government, Samuel.
Make a little point on Nigeria, please.
Yes, go ahead.
On the issue of Nigeria, I heard Mr. Jonathan Goodluck the other time said he cannot compromise with the Boko Haram. Yesterday, I heard Mr. Obama was boasting of America being the most powerful country in the world, with the most military in the world. But America have now negotiated with the Taliban in the release of one of the American soldiers. Then why is Mr. Jonathan saying he cannot negotiate for the freedom of the 250 girls that are now missing? It's very unfortunate. So I want him to look at the first of America, who is now said to be the most powerful country in the world, and they are now negotiating with the Taliban. They cannot even free one of their soldiers that were arrested, being the most powerful army in the whole world, the most richest country in the world. So I want to tell Mr. Jonathan to please negotiate for the freedom and the well-being of those girls, please. Thank you.
Well, Samuel, before you go, I'm all for tactical flexibility in these circumstances. But what should the president of Nigeria offer Boko Haram to get the return of these innocent schoolgirls that they have cruelly kidnapped?
Difficult to say, but I think Boko Haram is trying to talk about prisoner swap, because the life of the 250 girls are very much important than the Boko Haram that are in the Nigerian prison.
Okay, so okay, Samuel, that's clear. That's clear enough. I can't disagree with you on that. Let me go to Nigeria, talk to Patrick about Syria. Patrick, go ahead. Patrick, you're on the line.
Good evening.
Good evening to you. Welcome. Speak up quickly.
Yes, I'm happy that I'm speaking to you for the first time on this program.
Yeah, go on, quick.
I want to congratulate the people of Syria for their election.
Yes.
For the fact that they hold a successful election. I congratulate them.
Okay.
And this to be to the shame of the United States and all its allies, who respected the election in Ukraine, they respected the election in Egypt, but at the same time they don't want to. They said Mr. Kerry said the election in Syria is zero. I think Kerry should just go back and watch the tape of what Press TV have revealed about what has happened in the Syria election. I want to say congratulations to President Bashar al-Assad, and if you carry on the fact that the people are behind him, he's going to succeed. And all the militants will flush out of Syria by the grace of God.
Well, it is, Patrick, beyond parody, the attitude of the United States in the Syrian elections, the Egyptian elections, and the Ukrainian elections, or the Palestinian elections before that. I welcome the Palestinian Unity government, of course, but the previous election was won by Hamas, and the United States refused to recognize it. Okay, we're talking about Boko Haram and Nigeria. We're talking about the Syrian elections. I have to take a very short break for a short news bulletin, but I hope you'll stick with us, and you'll be back with me, God willing, in 2 or 3 minutes. Don't go away. Welcome back to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. Tonight we're discussing Nigeria and Syria. We're asking why the Nigerian government has not dealt seriously with Boko Haram. And we're asking how will the Syrian elections affect Western policies on Syria? And we need your calls, your texts, your emails, and indeed your tweets. And we're going across the whole world. We've been so far to the Persian Gulf, we've been to Africa, we've been to North Africa, we've been to Central Africa. And we want to take your calls on these two questions. Boko Haram, it's them that's haram, not Boko. It's their sins and crimes that we are discussing here. The kidnapping of hundreds of little schoolgirls who could have been your daughters, and the selling of these girls into slavery, and the rape and maltreatment of these girls by people calling themselves Muslims. But we're also asking, how come a state as powerful as Nigeria, the richest country in Africa, seems so utterly inept at coming to grips with them, either undercutting their social base with change and redistribution and all the reforms that are needed in Nigeria, or the simple security mechanisms of actually rescuing these girls. And we're talking about the Syrian presidential election, which had a turnout beyond all expectations, a real turnout, not a fake one like the one we've seen in Egypt, a real turnout of more than 70% of the voters in a war-torn country, including at least 100,000 votes cast in Beirut, way beyond the reach of the Syrian regime. People demonstrating with fervor their determination to vote in the elections and send a message to the West that they prefer their president to those ranged against him. That's just a fact. But how will it affect Western policies? That's what I'm asking Josh in California, USA. Josh, welcome to the show. What's your view on that?
Yeah, how you doing, George?
By the grace of God, I'm good. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I have a comment regarding the Nigeria. And I think this is a surprise. I think this is something have done by the United States, you know. I mean, they play this game to bring, you know, to get into Africa or to get to different places, you know. It's the same situation they have done in Syria. In Syria, all these problems happening by the United States and by the West. They bring, you know, all those fighters that call themselves Muslim Mujahideen, they are all rats. In the United States, they put the cheese over there. And they bring all those rats so they get killed in this place, you know what I mean? So actually what happened, they want to get rid of them. They want to get rid of all the fighters in the world, you know, but they take them to the wrong places. And they lead them to the wrong places. So who lead those people? And this is through the Saudis, you know. The Saudi is the biggest criminal country in the face of this earth. Since the time of 1915, when they came and they betrayed all the Muslims, when they bring the British to Palestine, and then they sold Islam for £5,000, you know, just to sell everything. So they are the one, and they are the black hand for the United States. They are the one. Poor people in different Muslim countries, they want to go study religious and they want to study Islam. They come to Saudi Arabia, and then after that they have a special people. They lead them to be fundamentalism and to lead them so they can send them to be the soldier of the West and the soldier of the United States. And that's what they have been doing. They did it in Afghanistan. They even did it in Chechnya, where they killed 300,000 Chechen people, you know, and destroyed the country. And who did that? It's all coming from Saudi Arabia. Every single problem which destroyed Islam is coming from the Saudi Arabia. They destroyed Islam They have bring all the Western people to different parts of the world. They are the ones the cause of destroy of Iraq. They are the ones the destroy of Palestine. They are the ones the destroy of Afghanistan. They are the ones who destroy of Chechnya. Every part of this world, they have been lead. They are the black hand and the rat which working for the Western world and for the United States. And you know what happening is, my mother, she was going to go to the pilgrims. I say, you will never go to this pilgrim as long as the Saudi is there, because every single penny goes to Saudi, goes to the United States and helping to buy weapons so they can kill the Palestinian people and the Muslim people in different parts of the world. Where's all the Saudi's money? It's the United States and Europe. And that's my comment according to this place.
Well, Josh, that's not just the best call of the night. It's the best call for many a night. And I'm going to leave it there. I don't agree with every word that you said, but you said it so powerfully, and so much of what you said is absolutely correct. I'm going to leave it there. That's a YouTube moment that will live and travel. Josh in California, don't be a stranger. Phone me again. Ali is in Malaysia and wants to talk about Nigeria and Boko Haram. Ali, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Hello, George.
Yes, hello, sir.
Thank you very much. This is the first time I'm being on your show, and I'm really glad to be.
Thank you.
Quickly to the topic I want to discuss on Boko Haram.
Yeah.
Now, we have to really be careful in a lot of ways, especially when we talk about the issue of terrorism and the war currently going on in Nigeria. I agree that it's not just a Nigerian issue. Actually, we have to understand it within the context of the global trend of spread of terrorism. It's true. But it's also very, very important, if not necessary, that we ask fundamental questions that kept being swept under the carpet, kept on being ignored, kept on being, played around, assuming it's nothing. Important to note is that this current war that is going on, I see no possible way, absolutely no possible way ever that the Nigerian government will be able to defeat Boko Haram, quote and unquote, defeat. There is no way. The best option, especially with regards to the kidnapped girls, is that Boko Haram must be engaged with. There must be a negotiation. This is not a question of maybe or whether or not. This is just a fact. The strongest army in the world, is talking with Taliban just to release one army officer. That put aside, people today are wondering within Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian. I'm not seen in Nigeria actually, but I'm a Nigerian. I have family. I talk with people in Nigeria every day. And the issue here is that how could more than 200 girls kidnapped over 2 weeks and nothing, come on, even a single army officer was said not to be seen by the communities. I mean, even if you carry 100 goats around, people will say, oh, we saw people passing with so many goats. Come on, these are human beings. These are our sisters, our daughters, future mothers. There is absolutely no way that the Nigerian government today will tell us that, this can just go and they don't have any reliable explanation to this. This is the reality.
So where are these girls? First of all, it's almost 300 girls, and it's not 2 weeks, Ali. It's many weeks. I don't know how many, but it must be well over a month now. Where are these girls? Where can they possibly be that they cannot be found by the Nigerian security forces? 14th of April. It was the 14th of April they were taken.
Yes.
So it's almost 2 months.
Yes, absolutely. The Nigerian government and whoever you can think cannot give you a precise answer exactly as to where the location of these girls. But the worst part of all this is that the Nigerian government keeps playing politics with this issue. Now, you just said who is Boko Haram and what have you, and you said they are al-Qaeda, linked group. That's just one side of the thesis. For the Nigerian government, when it is convenient, they tell you, Boko Haram is a group of political opponents who doesn't want President Jonathan to be in power and who have claimed that we are going to make his government ungovernable. When it's convenient, again, for the Nigerian government, they will tell you, no, Boko Haram is a bunch of touts. This is an internal problem, and we are on top of the issue. Times without number, the government, the president, the spokespeople have always promised Nigerians we will do something. Even today, the Nigerian president was talking in a PDP convention, the first convention for the new chairman of the party, and he was saying that I promise, keep making empty promises. Now, the politics that is being played with the conflict of Boko Haram and also the kidnapping of these girls in particular should not be at all. This is absolutely insane. There is no issue of being political here. And also, when the government keeps making promises and failing, it undermines its integrity, and the people no longer believe. And, reports coming in telling us how could these people be operating with impunity, not just killing one people, but clearing a whole village, and no army officer until when it's over, then they come and start saying, oh, these people. Come on, George. This is
Ali, I recognize a number of the arguments that you are making. But let's unequivocally make this point. You're a Muslim, living in a Muslim country, and you come from Nigeria. It is completely sinful and utterly criminal to kidnap girls, to enslave girls, to rape girls. It's completely sinful and utterly criminal to murder teachers and health workers, to explode bombs in crowded marketplaces full of innocent people. And we mustn't be seen, thought, or heard to be equivocal about that. The condemnations you make about the government and so on are, I'm sure, many of them valid, all of them arguable. But one thing that is not arguable at all is that this outfit is operating out of the same mindset as al-Qaeda in Syria, al-Qaeda in Iraq, al-Qaeda as was in Afghanistan, al-Qaeda in Pakistan. This is a definable, discernible, clearly visible presence in our midst. And just because others are condemning them for hypocritical reasons, just because others may be using them for despicable reasons, does not exculpate us from being unequivocal in our condemnation of them. Ali, in Malaysia, a very eloquent call. Please call back another time. Ako is in Cameroon, still in Africa, on the Nigerian question. Ako, welcome to the show, please.
All right.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. Welcome to the show, please.
Ako, you'll have to turn the volume. Ako, you'll have to turn the volume on your television down to 0. And then speak up.
Yes, okay. Thank you, George. Can you hear me, George?
Yes, I can.
I have turned it down. Can you hear me?
Yes, brother. Go ahead quickly.
Can you hear me, George? I can see you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead. You must speak up quickly or I'll have to move on, Ako.
All right, George. Thank you very much. It's Ako. I'm calling from Cameroon, from Mamfe in Cameroon.
Alhamdulillah.
Right.
Very nice. The wonders of technology. We're connected to you in Cameroon. Go ahead, Ako.
The Boko Haram question in Nigeria is a political problem, George. It's not a religious problem. It is not a religious problem. It's a political problem. And the government of Goodluck Jonathan in Nigeria should tackle it as a political problem, and it will be resolved. They keep making it look like it is a religious problem. I don't think so, George. I don't think so.
Well, Boko Haram are very clear about their perspective, which is that they are fighting a jihad. Unfortunately, we've lost Akko after we tried so hard. Akko, call me back another time. Bamba is in Italy on the Nigerian question. Go ahead, Bamba. Bamba?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, you're on the air, brother. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening, George.
Good evening, sir.
Thanks for being on your show. Really, I'm also a member of, I'm an African, and then a refugee in Italy over here.
Okay.
For me to ask something about the Boko Haram situation in this world that we see, I said Boko Haram, for instance, it's an organization, okay? It's an organization trying to distract people from doing the right thing in Africa. For instance, we have this kind of organization that are doing like Al-Qaeda, the Al-Shabaab, and many things going around. As we can see in what's happened in Afghanistan, and what's happened in Iraq, and what happened in different parts of this world, I think there must be something happening that is causing all this kind of chaos in Africa. Because what we talk about Islam is not what Boko Haram is doing. If somebody should say that we should go around killing people, this is not the right thing. If they want to know what Islam always means, they should always remember the words of the Prophet Muhammad when he was to leave the world. The last sermon that he gave it to the people. This is what Islam is all about. And secondly, I want to also put the question to the Nigerian government and say, where were the teachers when the Boko Haram came around to kidnap all these girls? Why was any teacher being kidnapped? Is it something they did together with the teachers or together with the government? This is a big question to ask them too, because the whole of Nigeria, before you move at any step of any boundary, there must be a soldier or something standing there to check at a checkpoint. But how come this Boko Haram walk all the way around to kidnap a number of these our sisters and take them away, and nobody knew about it? Then there must be something wrong with the politics of Nigeria, because Nigeria kidnapping didn't start today. It didn't start with Boko Haram. It starts with different ethnic groups and different things. So we know. Also, I would like to add this one, that I think there's something happening with the society of African politics. Now that we see the West African nation is now trying to wake up and do something, now more problems are increasing. You know, this is what we have to face in this world, because I think there must be something wrong in a political way and also in a way to distract people from doing what they want to do. For instance, when we talk of this kind of chaos that's going around the world, causing war, saying that they are going to look for peace and there's no peace, tearing the people into pieces. Don't forget the situation in Libya. What happened with the Libyan governor? We should all think of these things, and these things are things that are distracting us of growing. Now look at the world. We call Boko Haram. Now everybody's casting his mind on Boko Haram.
Well, as I keep saying, it doesn't matter that everybody's going on about it. It doesn't matter if there are hypocrites going on about it. I'm not a hypocrite, and I'm going on about it. And thank you for joining me. Let's go to Portsmouth and talk to Christian. How will the Syrian elections affect our policy on Syria, Christian?
Hi, George Galloway.
Hi.
Thanks for having me on the show. I just wanted to say that for me, from the minute that the UK government decided not to allow Syrians in the UK to participate in the elections at the embassies, that was really a signal that it's not going to make much of a difference. They're not going to take note of whatever happens. And the Syrian government have been, pulling out all the stops to make sure the election is run as smoothly as possible. They've even invited many correspondents and observers, but the UK didn't really accept that. So there's not much which, Syria can do to be able to sway the UK any direction. But one thing I did want to say is in terms of your statement with the Syrians in Beirut voting, I think George, you said it right, mate. Like, there can't be any, it's out of the Syrian government's control, so they couldn't have had any effect on.
No, it was Christian, the most powerful possible statement, and if it didn't resound across the world, it was because the media ignored it. But the politicians in the world can't ignore it. They saw it, and it was the clearest possible signal of a trend which has been occurring for most of this last 3 years, that whether the Syrians loved or didn't love their president, they loved him a lot more than the alternative. They loved him a lot more than the heirs and successors of Osama bin Laden. The Syrian people just will not live under a rubric of bin Ladenism. They simply will not. Christian, great call from Portsmouth. Last call is Mahmoud in London. Mahmoud, go ahead quickly.
Thank you. Hello, George.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Sterling job as always. I wanted to speak in relation to your announcement this evening, the fact that 70% of the Syrian population, as it were, voted for Assad to...
No, I don't know the result yet, Mahmoud, but more than 70% actually voted in the election.
Right. Now, I'd really like to hear your opinion with regards the fact that the enemies of Syria, let's say, they haven't in the past, and they do not now, and they won't accept this, or rather the Assad family in Syria. So what in your professional opinion is the outcome? Because
well, I'll tell you what, Mahmoud, those enemies don't care a damn about democracy. The people who are paying for this carnage in Syria have never had an election. If they can get away with it, we'll never have an election. And don't give a damn about the results of other people's elections. These people who are trying to bring down Bashar are the people who helped bring down the elected president of Egypt, who refused to assist the elected government of Palestine, who are not interested in democracy. Only as a tactic, they occasionally use it to weaken their enemies, or rather, the enemies of their masters. It's been marvelous. Come back next week, God willing.
Hello, if you comment the name and the Facebook account number, and just make sure it's like your television volume turns 0. 0, 0. Can you spell your name for me? Yeah, I know. You redirect me.